Hey everyone, it's Russ, and welcome to another episode of Women's Retirement Radio. Today, I am excited to introduce you to a longtime friend and colleague, Robert Fitzgerald. I know him as Bob, but he works, or he has his own insurance agency, the Robert Fitzgerald Insurance Agency. And over the years, which I'll let Bob share with you in a moment, he has developed a deep expertise as well as a focus on Medicare. And I know that's a topic near and dear to many of your hearts, especially as you approach Medicare eligible age. So Bob, really excited to have you on the podcast today. And thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Russ.
Why don't we start? You know, Bob, you and I have the benefit of having got to know each other for, I don't know, 10 years now, maybe more.
Probably more.
Yeah. Why don't you start though, and tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Okay. Thanks, Russ. Well, I got into this business, into the insurance business in about 2002, 2003. I actually come from a technology background where I was helping companies sell technology and sell services. And I think in 2002, 2003, we ran into a hiccup of the economy changed, and I was out of a job, and I had gotten, laid off 2 or 3 times, and I got frustrated with that, and decided the next time I was going to start take a job, it was going to be because of my business plan, and so I jumped into the insurance world, and I did okay for a while. I was in doing individual and group and helping clients. So that was great. But in about 2006, 2007, I had these people asking me about Medicare. And I realized there wasn't enough resources out in the marketplace to support those people, or enough knowledge. And so I started understanding it, and I started dealing with it. Well, in 2008, my wife had to go on to Medicare because of a disability. She had an illness. And then it became personal because she was well under 65 at the time. She was in her early 50s, and all of a sudden she had to go on to Medicare. So it gave me the real experience of, sorry, Russ. It really gave me the real experience of how complicated and how frustrating Medicare can be. And so that's where I started. Today I focus entirely on Medicare. I actually help train other agents to do it. I've got folks that work under me. Well, they don't work under me. They're agencies. They're wanting to get into Medicare business, and I actually help train their employees or train them to go out and help people that are turning 65 or becoming Medicare eligible.
Got it. Yeah, and I want to back up to something that you mentioned that I'm not sure that you and I've ever discussed, but I know you've got the long kind of history or background in technology sales, and then I know you decided to kind of change direction, as you mentioned several years ago. Any particular reason why you decided to kind of go into insurance versus maybe other options?
Well, actually, it was low cost of entry, and I've always been a salesperson. And it was an interesting business to me because at the time I went in, I was just shocked coming out of the technology world where, at that time in 2000, 2003, you could actually go online and figure out where you shopped yesterday, where you ate, and all kinds of things that were just out in the world about you. But one of the shocking things to me is you could show up on a gurney inside of a hospital, and if you're unconscious, they wouldn't know if you're diabetic or not. And that was just shocking to me that was happening at that time.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I always just find it fascinating to kind of understand the decisions that led people to where they are today. So I appreciate you sharing that. And then to add on to kind of what you were explaining about how you kind of started to get questions about Medicare, and then your wife needing to go on to Medicare early due to a disability or an illness. And then you've begun working with more and more other insurance agents and agencies. Clearly, you've got a ton of experience as well as expertise in Medicare. But you also, if I recall, you also are involved at the state level. I know you've told me before that you've done things here in the state of Georgia with the legislature, and you've gone to DC more than a couple of times representing Georgia around meetings, conferences, discussions that pertain to Medicare and things of that nature. Could you just speak to that briefly?
Well, yeah, I've actually been involved in a couple of different things. I was actually on the National Association of Health Underwriters Medicare Advisory Board, and I just came off of that. My plate's gotten a little bit full, so I decided to take a year off. I'll probably be back on it again next year. But I've actually testified in front of the Department of Justice when they had a lawsuit against Humana and Aetna for trying to merge. And obviously they didn't merge. I can tell you that I was on the side of them not merging, so I felt like that was a win for me. So, and I got a lot of credit for my testimony there. So that was kind of exciting. And I've also served on Governor Deal, one of his committees that we were at the time looking at adding other things to healthcare at the time. And it was, I believe at that time, it was autism and food and some other things. And so I was brought in on a committee, and that was pretty neat. So yeah, I've been pretty active. And as you said, I go up every year to Washington, D.C., and I try to lobby on behalf of my clients on the things that need to change, in Medicare to make it easier and certainly making it better for the clients that I have and obviously everybody coming forward, enrolling into Medicare in the future.
Well, and speaking of that, could you give us just a little glimpse of like what's your wish list? Like what are one or two things that if you could snap your fingers, and clearly you can't, but if you could snap your fingers to improve Medicare in a meaningful way, like what are one or two things you'd love to see happen?
Well, Russ, I run into this a lot where instead of going on Medicare, people decide, well, I'm going to go on COBRA, and they don't realize that COBRA is not group coverage, it's individual coverage. And if you're eligible for Medicare, that company that's administering the COBRA and paying the bills for your health insurance doesn't have to pay any bills that A and B would pay for. And that's a real hole. And then you also have a problem if you're on COBRA for more than 8 months after you're on Medicare, that you might not be able to enroll in Medicare for up to 18 months after that. So that's something that people make, an honest, a real honest mistake because they didn't know that COBRA was individual coverage. So that's one of the things that we're trying to fix. There's other things like in Medicare enrollment, where the way Medicare enrollment works, you have up to 3 months before and up to 3 months after to enroll in Medicare, A and B. Well, if you all of a sudden lose your job in that second month after your enrollment and you try to go enroll, your insurance could be, you may not have the option of enrolling to up to 3 months from then. And that means you and your family could be without insurance for up to 3 months. So there's little things like that make it very unfortunate for clients that really has no place even being there, number one, because it doesn't, from a financial sense, it doesn't make any sense on either side to be having those things in place. But it really becomes problematic for the client making decisions, and really, they're trying to do the right things and keep their health care, and they want it to be continuous, and then they find out they're going to have a break. So it becomes very frustrating.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I as I've shared with you before, I probably know just enough to be dangerous when it comes to the world of Medicare, which is why I'm, happy to introduce my clients and other contacts to you. And I've done that multiple times over the last few years.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Yeah. When they're approaching, Medicare eligibility, or when they want to review their coverage or things like that. And we could probably spend hours just talking about all the ins and outs of Medicare and the different, the letters and what they cover and what they don't. But maybe we could focus on what is, from your perspective, Bob, what's the biggest challenge that you help people address or solve when it comes to Medicare coverage?
Well, really understanding what decisions they have to make when they're eligible for Medicare. That's really the biggest challenge, because clients usually walk in not knowing that they do have decisions to make. Doing nothing can be a terrible decision. It could be a good decision, but you really have to have somebody help you with what decisions you have to make and the impact of those decisions, because there could be financial penalties, there could be breaks in coverage. So that's really the biggest problem that I saw.
And what I know you spoke earlier about maybe a couple of things you'd love to see improved or changed around COBRA and the timing of enrollment and things like that, where people could unintentionally find themselves in a challenging spot. What are, maybe similar to that, but maybe a little bit different, what are common misconceptions, or what are things that you often find yourself explaining to folks about Medicare that maybe they just didn't understand completely or had a misunderstanding about?
The cost, number one. People don't realize all the costs that are involved in Medicare. So that's probably people find out, especially if you're a higher income earner, you are going to pay a higher Part B premium than everybody else, and right. So that's obviously one of the big surprises. But I'd say the other thing is that people realize they're getting better insurance, they have better options and lower costs when they use the services.
Yeah.
So it really is to their benefit in a lot of cases that they ought to be going to Medicare.
Yeah. And clearly you've got a ton of experience and know Medicare inside and out, but since Medicare is essentially a federal program, what is your role in the Medicare decision-making and education process for clients? Like what do you actually, help them put in place that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable trying to tackle on their own?
Well, I am an independent agency, and really I make my money helping that person buy an insurance product. And I am not tied to any one carrier. I'm an independent. I'm appointed with most of the carriers in the marketplace. And that's how I get paid, is I provide a solution to my clients using an insurance product. My services to the client actually don't cost any money, which is a nice thing. But I've got a real simple business plan. If I do good things for my client, they say nice things to their friends and they send them to me. And I have an all referral business right now. I do not do any marketing at all. And it's just been very worthwhile from my standpoint that I get to help the amount of people that I do, and the clients that come to me just by referral.
And is your involvement like typically introducing them to their options, like for a Medicare Advantage plan or something along those lines, or helping educate them about the different Medicare letters and Medigap policies?
Everything.
Or yeah.
So my initial presentation to my clients is a Medicare 101 presentation, Russ. I want them to understand the ins and outs, a little bit, about Medicare. And a lot of stuff's baked in, but it gets to the section where they have decisions to make. So they start understanding what decisions they have to make. And then you mentioned Medicare Advantage. Well, they might want to go to a Medicare Advantage plan. They might want to stay on original Medicare with a Medicare supplement plan, a drug plan. And I help them through all that.
Got it. That's helpful. I want to be very clear about, the role you play and how you help people. And to your earlier point, when I've introduced folks to you, I've always gotten wonderful feedback about how helpful you were and things like that. So I can speak to your comments about, running a referral based business, especially when you take good care of your clients. Who's a perfect client for you, Bob? Like, is it like the month leading up to age 65, at which point they become eligible? Is it someone that's already on Medicare that maybe just needs to review their prescriptions and make sure they've got the right coverage for the right cost? Or like, who do you feel are best equipped to serve in the Medicare space?
Well, that's a more complicated question, Russ, that I'm sure you're aware of, because Medicare has all different kinds of enrollment periods. And when you can enroll, and then the different products have different enrollment periods. Like you just mentioned, prescription drug plans. Well, we've got annual enrollment coming up, and that's when clients need to review their prescription drugs and make sure that they're on the right plan for the coming year. And same thing with the Medicare Advantage plans. Between October 15th and December 7th, a client can make changes at that time to their plans, and for January 1. So that's obviously a very busy time for me. But throughout the rest of the year, you've got people turning 65. You've got people that all of a sudden they're leaving work, and they're over 65, and they're coming off their employment plan. So that's a very big group for me, because I work with some corporations where I go in with their HR department and I do a presentation on whether it makes sense for them to go on Medicare now or stay on the group plan. And then you've got people that move into Georgia or move out of Georgia into another state where they have another enrollment period. So I'm, pretty busy throughout the year. And, it really has to do with a lot of these enrollment periods. Most people are familiar, obviously, with the annual enrollment period, but they don't realize there's a bunch of other ones too.
Yeah. And is it correct? And I may be showing my ignorance here, but is it correct that if someone's working full time and let's say they've got they're on a group plan through their employer and they turn 65, did they still? My understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, they still need to enroll in Medicare even if they're not going to use it, even if they're going to stay on their group plan. Is that accurate?
Not. It all depends. And then I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here. So number one, if you're on a group plan of over 20 employees, then yes, you can stay on that group plan and delay your Part B enrollment without penalty if you do it the right way. But in a lot of cases, it does make sense to enroll in A. There's no penalty. You don't pay for it. So there's no reason why you wouldn't. But if you're on a high deductible plan with an HSA, you don't want to enroll in A or B, because you lose that ability to get the tax deferral on those contributions into the HSA account. So you have to be a little bit careful there. And then on top of that, I usually have a conversation with the client about, I need to know if that drug plan that you're on, if it's an HSA type, a high deductible plan, whether it's credible coverage or not. And if it is credible coverage, you can do that and you're fine. But if you don't go on A and B and the drug plan isn't credible coverage, you might be subject to a penalty. And so sometimes taking the penalty is worth the contribution going into the HSA account. So we try to have that conversation also. So everything gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah, so the answer is it depends.
Yes, it certainly depends.
Yeah, well, and now that you say that, I'm actually reminded of a client situation I think you and I discussed a few months ago where she was kind of faced with that decision where it was, does she stay on it was actually a woman that was, I guess, divorced and was going to be covered by her ex-husband's COBRA coverage. And we were talking about whether or not she should stay on that or go to Medicare. And I think you raised some of those issues as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into the decision-making process clearly.
So the other challenge you have there with being on a group plan, coming off of that individual coming off the group plan could affect the rest of the family's insurance also. So we try to have that conversation, because all of a sudden, if the employee is not on the group plan, well, the spouse and the kids are no longer eligible for the group plan. And then they may have options to go on COBRA or go to an individual plan. So, there's a lot of things tied together here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. A lot of moving parts.
Yes.
So, Bob, you said you've been squarely focused on Medicare since how many years has that been now?
Golly, it's I'm going to say a solid 13 years. It might be longer.
Yeah. So over that time, you've clearly worked with, hundreds and hundreds of different clients, maybe thousands by this point.
Thousands.
Yeah. I don't want to unintentionally diminish the great work you're doing. What's a favorite client success story that comes to mind for you of all the folks you've worked with over the years?
So this has happened to me twice, where I've been brought a client that was on kidney dialysis coming off of a group plan. And up until last year, that individual really didn't have any options when they're under 65. It's a kind of a scary situation, because I had to really dive into it. And what I found is a rule that stated that if that carrier who had the group plan and that person was coming off the group plan, that carrier actually had to give them guaranteed issue if they offered a Medicare Advantage plan. And I ran into that situation twice. And I was just so happy for these clients, because they didn't really have any other option. And so I actually had to call the carrier and say, look, you've got to take this on. I know it's a very expensive client, do the kidney dialysis and all the other problems, but here's the rule. And so initially, in both cases, the application was declined, and I had to go up to the higher ups and point out the rule. And it took me both times about a week or two, but they ended up taking both people. They're still very good clients in mine. They call me. They just couldn't have been more thankful for the work I did for them. So that was pretty big, because those people were really struggling. They didn't have a lot of options, and I was able to really make their lives and their family lives a lot better. Wow.
I mean, holy cow. That's tremendous. And yeah, I mean, clearly that's where your knowledge of all the ins and outs and, what different parties' obligations were and things like that. I mean, literally could have added years to those people's lives who otherwise, would have been left to their own devices in a serious health situation. So that's fantastic. Wow.
Big, serious financial situation too.
Yeah, clearly. I'm floored. Thanks for sharing that, Bob. Before we, I want to talk a little bit more about, kind of retirement and get your perspectives on retirement. But before we kind of transition into that, anything else that, you want to mention or address around your work in Medicare, or anything I didn't ask you that maybe I should have?
No, the important thing I'd say for the folks that are going to be listening to this podcast is get help. I mean, ask the questions, find the right resources so you're making the right decisions. Because unfortunately, in my marketplace, there's a lot of Joe Namaths out there. I'm sure you've seen them on the TV. It's not as easy as that.
Yeah, I think we talked about that one time. One of those commercials that was on TV, and I think it might have been the Joe Namath one. It was actually a Medicaid plan, if I'm not mistaken, that is correct, describing instead of Medicare, which is worlds different than Medicare coverage.
Well, the plans he was talking might not be available in Georgia.
Interesting.
So, it just, and then the words and the things that he's using is actually out of compliance with Medicare. So I'm not sure how he even is able to do some of the things he does in those commercials.
Yeah. Well, I could agree more. Clearly in the work I do, I'm a proponent of people reaching out and seeking some help and some guidance and some expertise when the situation calls for it. So we'll certainly as we wrap up, let people know how they can get a hold of you, and we'll share all your contact information in the show notes for this episode as well.
Well, and I got to tell you, you and I have both been down a path where you've kind of showed me where some bad guys in your industry are. So that's been very helpful for me to be aware, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah,
fortunately there are bad guys in every industry.
Yeah, that's true. And at the end of the day, people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
I can say the same of myself, and so I think it's certainly worth, as you said, asking the questions and seeking some input from someone that knows what's what, especially when it comes to something as complex as Medicare. Yes, couldn't agree more. So Bob, this is the Women's Retirement Radio podcast. Everything we do and talk about comes back to this idea of women as they prepare for and transition into retirement. So I'm curious, when you think about the word retirement, what comes to mind for you personally?
It's just a date. I try to counsel my clients, if you're retiring from a job or an activity you've been doing all your life and you plan on not doing that anymore, well, the transition can be challenging, because I think to live a healthy life, you still have to stay social, you still have to stay active, and you have to eat well, and you have to exercise. So whatever you do in that transition, you want to make sure those things are involved because they're important to leading a healthy retirement and a healthy life. Myself, I've got my fifth grandchild last week.
Oh,
which
congratulations.
Is great. Girl. Thank you. So, it's becoming more important for me as I get older, then, I want to watch these kids grow up. That's probably, the most important thing on my mind right now is that I get to be a part of their lives for as long as I can. So that becomes real important on my behalf to stay healthy and be active so I can be a part of and contribute to their lives.
Well, and let me, I think that's a wonderful perspective. And I'm going to take it a step further and maybe put you on the spot a little bit, but talk about retirement as it relates to you personally. Like, do you imagine a time where you just wind down the business or sell it and, you're just not working? Or do you think you would maybe dial back and get some help or just kind of, work at a little easier pace at some point? Or like when you think about retirement for yourself personally, like what does that look like for you?
Right now I have a financial plan that says I'm going to stop at 70. But that's all it is the financial piece of it. I suspect I will continue after 70, but it won't be at the pace I'm at today.
Yeah.
And how that looks like, I'm not sure, but, I love what I do. I love working with the clients I work with. I get the opportunity to work with chairman of the boards of companies, people high in the religious environment, just different people of all kinds, and they're all interesting, and I just love that part of it. So I will probably continue after 70, but probably won't be at the pace I'm at right now.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is your financial plan is while there's a retirement date, it sounds like it's really more around the idea of financial independence, after which you may continue to work for a period of time or not. I mean, I guess you'll have that option at that stage.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. That idea of independence or work optional comes up a lot when I ask people that retirement question. So thanks for your willingness to share that. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but for all those out there listening who happen to be tennis players in the Atlanta area, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Alta organization, and Bob is a past president. Not too long ago, as I recall.
Well, I was actually chairman of the board last year.
Okay, yeah. So you were the big cheese when it came to Alta. So I don't know how between that and your commitments around your work and not just with your clients, but with some of the associations and the legislative bodies that you're involved with. I don't know how you find the time to do it, but I'm glad you do. So,
well, my wife explains that I have this sick passion of giving back to the places they've given to me. So,
well, there are certainly worse vices that you could be dealing with, Bob.
Yeah, I agree. I've enjoyed it too.
Good. What, from your perspective, both as it relates to Medicare, but then more broadly, what do you think is the biggest challenge women face specifically when they're planning for retirement?
Oh, wow. It's women are more in tune with the healthcare that's out in the market than men are. And so they understand a little bit more about how the health plans work. They are using, I think, under 65, certainly the healthcare system more than men are. So they're more detailed in their questions about, are my doctors in a network? Do we cover this? Do we do this? So those kinds of things I see from women. But they also, they want to make sure they understand their coverage. And they will also want to make sure they have the best coverage that they can get. I see women a lot more in tune with the options and understanding what decisions that they really have to make.
Yeah, that's interesting. And with that in mind, how does your work directly impact those women and their families as they're planning for or transitioning into retirement? I mean, I think we've covered a lot of this, but how would you say that, given maybe women's tendencies to be a little bit more engaged and involved in their healthcare options and choices and things like that, how does that tie into your work, and how does that ultimately influence or impact their retirement planning?
Well, it gets back to them having the confidence that they understood the decisions they had to make, and they understood the ramifications of the decisions they were making. And at the end of the day, they understood all the options. They understood what was good, what was bad, and they were able to make a decision. And at the end of the day, they are going to be able to sleep better at night, knowing that they made the right decisions at the right time in the right place.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I think as cliched as sleeping better at night and this idea of peace of mind is, I think there's really tremendous value in being able to help deliver that to people. And from my perspective, women especially. So I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and I'm just so happy that I know you, and that I've got you as a great resource to point, clients and other contacts to when they have questions about Medicare, whether that's their own coverage or whether they're, dealing with an aging parent or whatever the situation may be. So I'm really, really happy to have you as kind of my go-to local resource when it comes to all things Medicare.
Well, thanks, Russ. We've had a very good relationship, and we've actually become very good friends over time, I think, because of the knowledge that we both bring to the party. Yeah,
we have. And despite your financial plan, I'm no way I'm going to let you retire at 70, because I'm going to keep you in the game as long as I can. So maybe you answered this a moment ago when you mentioned your fifth grandchild just coming into the world here recently. But how you're a busy guy. You've got a growing business. You're about to get even busier when open enrollment starts here in a few weeks in the middle of October. But when you've got an hour or two to yourself, Bob, how do you most enjoy spending your time?
Well, I like to walk, and while I'm walking, I've got a set of AirPods that I put in my ears, and I get to listen to biographies of past presidents. And I can tell you I'm up to Lincoln, and that's like a 45-hour book. So that's probably one of the things. If I have a free hour, that's what I like to do.
How, just on average, out of curiosity, how much do you walk in an average day?
Well, I walk at least 3 times a week. I live in Woodstock, and we've got this trail that goes about 4 miles. So I usually do that. And I'm fortunate on 2 of the mornings I walk with 3 or 4 other men, 2 guys that I know really well. A couple are in the neighborhood. And so we get to discuss the world issues and sports and everything else. So I enjoy that also. So I usually do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's interesting that you're working through the presidential biographies. I'll, that's I guess arguably that could be a lifelong pursuit. As many as you still got ahead of you. But I think that's certainly an interesting way to spend your time when you're out in nature, stretching your legs. So I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I will give you one nugget. Politics hasn't changed from day one.
I think that's come up in our lunch conversations more than once too. But interesting how things change and also stay the same.
Oh yeah. It's been a dirty business since day one.
Yeah. So, Bob, we've covered a lot. You and I could probably talk for another couple of hours without, even checking the clock. But as we wrap up, if there were one thing that our listeners could take away from our conversation today, what would you want that one thing to be?
Ask the questions. If you really don't know and you're not getting the right advice, find it. Because it's really important that you make the right decisions at the right time.
Well said. And what a great place to wrap things up. And clearly, anyone listening to this is welcome to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to put you in touch with Bob. But if you got questions, or you want to review your coverage, or you just want to learn a little bit more and be a little bit more educated, feel welcome to reach out to Bob directly. Bob, what's the best way for people to reach out, to learn more, to get in touch with you?
So my office number is 678-402-1515. And that's probably the best way. And in your call, if you could leave me your email address, because I'm starting to use a tool that Russ is using now called Calendly. And then what I'll try to do is email you my schedule so we can set up a time to talk.
Awesome. And like I mentioned earlier, we'll include links to Bob's website and his phone number in the show notes, among other things. So we'll make it easy for you to reach out and learn more about Bob and more specifically learn more about Medicare, if that's something that's of interest to you. Bob, this has been great. I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a while, so I'm glad we were able to finally get it done. And, maybe we'll have to have you back and have a part 2 at some point.
We have to get back on our lunch circuit too.
Yeah. No kidding. Now that hopefully COVID's a thing of the past. Yeah, we're overdue to get a lunch on the calendar again here soon. So we'll definitely have to do that. But Bob, thank you again for all you do, but for certainly joining me today to share a little bit about who you are and the work you're doing with our listeners. This has been fun.
Thank you, Russ. You've been a great resource, and I'm sure you're a great resource for your clients.
And everyone out there, thanks again for joining us. Again, this is Russ Thornton with Women's Retirement Radio, and we look forward to catching up with you on our next episode. It's Russ again, and before you go, I want to provide a brief disclosure. You should consult a financial advisor familiar with the specific circumstances of your unique financial situation before making any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mentioned rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. I'm a financial advisor and an investment advisor representative of WealthCare Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor based in Richmond, Virginia. The views discussed in this podcast are my own and may not be consistent with or represent those of WealthCare Capital Management.